Welcome to my bass fishing lure tier list. For this list, I will be grading each lure based on a rubric. This includes price, how much it is it worth the price, effectiveness, does it catch a lot of fish or does it catch big fish, versatility, how versatile is it, can you use it in different ways and throughout the year, fun, most of us fish for fun, so how fun is it to use the lure, and simplicity, how easy it is, and does it cast far, and does it require the angler to work it. I will be rating each lure out of 20 in each category. Now let's get started. So first up, we have the crankbait. Now a crankbait is a really effective bait that comes in many different shapes, diving depth, and sizes. In general, I would say most crankbaits cost between the $6 to $12 range. They're not super expensive, so I'll give that a 18 out of 20. Now, crankbaits catch lots of fish, especially when the fish are moving and chasing bait, therefore deserving a 19 out of 20. For versatility, crankbaits usually are only used in the fall, summer, and springtime. They can't really be slowed down or fished in any other way other than cranking, so it's a 16 out of 20. Crankbaits are really fun to fish and simple to fish. That's a easy 20 for both. A crankbait comes out at a 93, deserving in the B tier. Next up, we have a spinnerbait. Spinnerbaits are awesome to fish and they work exceptionally. They're pretty cheap as you can get the good ones like the Booyah ones for $6 to $8. That's a 19 out of 20 for price. They catch a ton of fish and work awesome during windy and sunny conditions. That's a 18 out of 20 for effectiveness. They can't really be fished in many ways other than slow rolling it and reeling it, deserving a 16 out of 20. It's fun and simple, so that's a 20. For both, overall, a spinnerbait gets a 93, going in the B tier as well. Next, we have our first soft plastic, a soft plastic worm or a Senko. These are pretty awesome and they're pretty cheap in general. Most of them cost between $3 to $5. The Yamamoto ones goes to 10, but that's a 20 out of 20 for the price. They're extremely effective. They catch fish year-round in almost any condition. 20 out of 20 for effectiveness. They can be fished weightless, weighted, wacky, and many other ways, making it one of the most versatile baits out there. That's a 20. Sometimes they can be kind of boring to fish, especially when you fish it slow. So I would rate that 18 for fun. For some rigs, like the drop shots and shaky heads, more movement and skill is required while retrieving and working it, so it's a 19 for simplicity. Overall, the Senko gets a 97, going in the S tier. Ooh, underspins. Underspins are really nice baits, and it's my fishing buddy's go-to bait. They aren't really expensive. Most cost like $3 to $8. 6-cent ones, I think they're like $5. That's a 19 for the price. Catch a lot of fish, especially during the fall and spring when the fish are chasing bait. Sometimes I just don't find them to work as well as like a spinnerbait, so it's going to be a 17 for effectiveness. Like the spinnerbaits, they aren't super versatile, and that deserves a 16. They are pretty fun to fish and simple, so that's a 19 and a 20. Coming in at a 91, the Underspin places his place in the B tier behind the spinnerbait. Ooh. Craws. So soft plastic craws. Ooh, they're my favorite Texas rig bait. They're awesome to fish. They catch tons of big ones, but they are pretty expensive for 7 soft plastics. Most of them are like $5 to $10 a pack, deserving an 18 for price.
No! God, please, no! No!
They are extremely effective throughout the year though, and always seem to get the skunk off. 20 for sure. They're pretty versatile and they can be fished slowly as a trailer or weightless, even though nobody really fishes a weightless. They're fun to fish and simple, deserving a 19 and a 20. Overall, a Craw is a 96, placing right at the A tier. Ooh, we have a Wakebait. A Wakebait is my absolute favorite topwater, but lots of them are pretty expensive. Now, most of them are between $6 to $10. KVD ones I use are only $6 a pop, which is pretty good for, a hard plastic bait. But some 6-cent ones and the jointed ones, they can go up to be pretty expensive, so I'll give that an 18 for price. They're really effective in catching fish when the fish are active. The fish haven't really seen them because not a lot of people use wake baits, and they have a pretty natural representation. but they only work when fish are extremely active, like during the fall and the spring. It kills me, but a wakebait is getting a 17 for effectiveness. Wakebaits aren't really versatile. You have to reel them pretty fast. I guess you could pause them, but it's like a 14 for versatility. They're pretty fun to fish, and they're simple, so that's a 20 for both. Overall, the wakebait is an 89, coming in our first C tier. Next up, walking bait or spook. Now, spooks are really fun to fish, but they are pretty expensive. Most of them range from 10 to 15 bucks. I have to give that like a 17 for price. They're really effective with active fish, just like the wakebait. That's a 17. They're pretty versatile as you can fish them slowly or fast, so that's a 15. They're fun to fish, but not everybody can master a walking bait. So that's a 19. Overall, it gets an 88 and goes right behind a wakebait. Spy bait. A spy bait is a pretty unpopular bait. Some people say it's really underrated. They are pretty expensive, as almost all the spy baits I've known are above 15 bucks. That's a 15 for price. They aren't the most effective bait, but they most definitely catch fish, even when the fish don't want to bite, so that's a 16. They're pretty versatile. They're usually slow rolled when the fish aren't biting, but you can still fish it pretty fast. That's an 18 out of 20. They're not super fun to fish, but they aren't boring. That deserves a 19. They're pretty easy to fish, so that's a 20. The spy bait comes in at an 88 right after the spook. Ooh, we have a banger. So we have a chatterbait. Most of them cost 4 to 8 bucks. The original Z-Man ones cost 5 bucks. Really cheap for, such a big and popular bait. 19 out of 20 for price. They catch so many big fish. That's a 19 for effectiveness. They can be fished slowly on the bottom like a jig. You can, pop it or drag it or retrieve pretty quickly. It's a 19 for versatility. It's really fun and really simple. That's a 20 for both. And that is our second 97, coming right behind the soft plastic worms. Now we have a popper. Poppers are great and they don't cost much at all, deserving a 19 for price. They're pretty effective. I just don't find them the best to catch fish sometimes. The 16. They can really only be fished slowly, and that's all you can do, so that's a 15. It's really fun and pretty simple. That's a 20 and 19. Overall, it's an 89. Whopper ploppers. Whopper ploppers are really good baits, almost all the beginners have them because they just catch fish. But the thing is, they cost a lot. The river to sea ones are like 12 to 19 bucks. The chopos, which are the ones I use, they cost like 10 to 15. That's a 15 for price. They're really effective though and catches a ton of fish. The 19. Pretty versatile. You can fish it slowly and pop it. You can also fish it fast. So that's a 17. They're insanely fun, hearing that plopping sound and simple. Overall, that's a 90, our first top water in the B tier. Hollow body frog or walking frogs are one of the best baits to fish cover. They're pretty expensive. Well, they're just not cheap in general. Most of them I've seen are like 10 bucks or above, so that's an 18. They catch a lot of fish though, so that's an 18. They aren't the most versatile, but you can kind of change up the retrieve speed, so that's a 17. They're really fun to fish, but walking a frog is pretty difficult for beginners, especially when you don't have the right gear. When I first started fishing a frog, I had no idea how to walk it. So overall, a frog is a 91 going into the B tier. Swim baits are awesome and super realistic, but they can be a bit expensive sometimes. It's a solid 17 for the price. They're really effective though, as they have a really natural swimming representation. They're usually fished pretty fast. You can't really pause them. It's a 17 for versatility. They're really fun though, and they're easy to fish. That's a 20 for both. Overall, Swimbait is a 92 and it goes in the B tier as well. Ooh, Ned rigs. So Ned rigs, they're pretty cheap. The hooks cost about 5 bucks a pack. Ned worms usually go for 3 bucks. You could tear a Senko into 2. Doesn't really matter. It's a 19 for the price. They definitely catch a lot of fish. It's easy 20 for effectiveness. Pretty versatile. They can be worked on the bottom. If you had like a Ned worm, if you had like a little swim bait or a little craw, you can also swim them and work it as a jig head. They're pretty fun to fish in general and pretty easy to fish. That's a 19 and 20 for both of those. Ooh, that looks like we have another 97. That is going into S tier. A popping frog. Now, I'm not going to go in detail because it's really similar to the hollow body frog. The only thing that I need to say is that it's a bit more simple to use as you just pop it. So a popping frog is 92, 1 point higher than the walking frog. Ooh, jerkbaits. Jerkbaits are one of my absolute go-tos. They seem to catch fish just all the time. They're pretty expensive though. Most of them are like 10 to 15 bucks. The Mega Bass Fishing 110s go to like 25 and 28. That's like 17, solid 17 out of 20 for the price. They're super effective and they catch fish even when it's really tough outside. They're versatile since they suspend so you can fish it really fast or really slow. They're fun to fish, but it could be harder to master to retrieve. It's an 18 for simplicity. Overall, a jerkbait is a 94 going into the A tier. Next up, we have a glidebait. Now, glidebaits are awesome to fish and they catch all the monsters. But unfortunately, I would have to give it a 12 out of 20 for the price just because they are really, really expensive. The cheaper ones are usually no less than 15 bucks. You know, the river to CS waivers, 15 to 25. The expensive one goes to hundreds. And a lot of them just aren't worth the $100 price. Now, they are really effective in catching big ones, so that's a 90 for effectiveness. They could be swim or slowly retrieve. A lot of them have a slow sinking design or they suspend, so that's an 18 for versatility. I find them pretty fun and simple. You know, you never know which cast you're going to get that big bite and you're going to reel in that giant. So overall, the glidebait is an 88. You know, the price really dragged the overall rating down, so I have to put it at the bottom, unfortunately. Now we have buzzbaits. Buzzbaits are pretty cheap. Most of them are like 4 to 6 bucks. You know, I think the Booyah ones are like 6. It's a 19 for the price. They're effective when the fish are really moving and they're really trying to eat and chase bait because people usually fish it really fast. I have to give it a 15 for versatility because it just can't be fished any slower. You have to really crank it on top of the water. And you just can't slow it down when the fish bites. That's the only downside. They're fun and simple, so overall a buzzbait gets a 91 going to the B tier. Now last but not least, we have the lipless crankbait. They are pretty cheap. The striking ones are usually 6 to 10 bucks. The Bill Lewis ones are usually 6 to 7. It's a 18 for the price. They're really effective when the fish are chasing bait and really active. They aren't the best when the fish are slow, but it still deserves a 18 out of 20 for effectiveness. They can be fished really fast, or you could kind of hop it or drag it on the bottom. I would give it a 19. They're fun and simple to fish as well, giving a lipless an overall score of 96. There we have it. This is our final tier list. Now, before I get absolutely flamed, all the baits up here are really good baits. As you can see, all of them are above 85 points. If you look to the left, the scale goes from 80 to 100. So they're all really good to use. This took pretty long to make, so it would be really nice if you give this video a like and subscribe. It really motivates me and helps me out. Thanks for watching.